Meanwhile, the President of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, who is in Colombo for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, met with President Mahinda Rajapaksa at the Sirimava Bandaranaike Memorial Exhibition Centre last evening. President Zuma had conveyed South Africa's willingness to improve and expand the already existing good bilateral relations with Sri Lanka. President Rajapaksa has expressed his interest in learning more about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of South Africa and its process and the outcome.
Indian External Affairs Minister Salman Khurshid, speaking on the sidelines of Chogam, expressed his disappointment that he was unable to take Indian Premier Dr. Manmohan Singh to Jaffna.
I am disappointed that I couldn't take my Prime Minister there as the first Prime Minister in the world to visit Jaffna. We are building 50,000 houses. I couldn't show those to him. We've built roads there. I couldn't show those to him. We are doing schools and community centers.
Khurshid also said that Sri Lanka should address its human rights record.
We have a right to say to our friends in Sri Lanka, this is affecting us. Please address it. And address it not only because it helps us, but because it helps both of us. It helps you and it helps us. Therefore, please address it. And if we can be of any help in addressing it, we are willing to be of help in addressing it. But ultimately, it will be and have to be addressed by Sri Lanka itself.
Now, a meeting of sportsmen and women from the north, east and south of the country took place at the CCC grounds in Colombo today. The event was organised by the trustee of the Foundation of Goodness, Muttaya Muralidharan, and was attended by British Prime Minister David Cameron. The highlight of the event was when David Cameron picked up a bat to face a delivery from the spin wizard.
It's also having a big... Oh, what's it?
The Duchess of Cornwall, who attended the Commonwealth Heads of, who accompanied the Prince of Wales for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, attended several events in Colombo today.
The Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla Parker, visited the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children in Colombo this morning. Director of the hospital, Dr. Ratnasiri Hevage, said that the Duchess of Cornwall paid more attention on the tests conducted on the situation of children diagnosed with diabetes. The Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla Parker, also visited a women's welfare centre in Colombo.
Well, that's it from me, guys, at the BMICH Chogam Media Centre. Back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Madhushka, for that update. Now, locals in Sampur, Trincomalee staged a Satyagraha campaign this morning, demanding that they be resettled in areas where they originally belonged.
The Satyagraha campaign was organised opposite the Welfare Centre for those displaced in Sampur, located in Kilivetti, Muttur, by a group of Tamil National Alliance parliamentarians. Another group had prepared to stage a demonstration at the same location. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohan has said that a court order had been obtained preventing both demonstrations from taking place. Nevertheless, the TNA public representatives and displaced persons from Sampur were present for this demonstration.
அவர்கள் இருக்கிறார்கள், நாங்கள் முந்தாரோடு இருக்கிறோம். பேசிட்டு போகலாமா? போட் பிடிக்க இல்லை, நாங்கள் போட் பிடிக்க இல்லை, கொஞ்ச நேரம் இருந்து நாங்கள் எல்லா பெருமானாரையும் கும்பிட போறோம். அவ்வளவுதான். சரி.
Persons displaced from Sampur were initially housed at temporary shelters in Wakarai, Batikalo and Trincomalee and were later sent to the Welfare Centre for the displaced persons from Sampur in Kilivetti. Around 2,600 families are living at this centre.
நேற்று முந்தினாத்து நாங்கள் பல உலகத் தலைவர்களை சந்தித்திருக்கின்றோம்.
We met with several heads of states and held discussions. We met with the prime ministers, foreign ministers and the secretaries to those ministers. During these discussions, we spoke about Sampur. If the people are to truly understand freedom and peace, the rulers of this country need to treat all the people equally. Their people should understand that it is not good to take over the lands of the ordinary people. Please, without any further delay, provide these people with their lands and take measures to resettle them. The international community need to focus their attention on this. The international community has to question as to why the Sri Lankan government is still keeping these people here without allowing them to head back to their original lands. At a time when heads of states are taking part in this meeting, this matter needs to be taken up. That is what these people are asking for. Following the Satyagraha campaign, a letter containing details of missing persons was handed over to TNA Parliamentary Group leader R. Sambandhan.
On Words of Wisdom tonight, we feature the words of Bob Dylan, the American musician and playwright, famous for his song Blowing in the Wind.
Democracy don't rule the world. You'd better get that in your head. This world is ruled by violence, but I guess that's better left unsaid. Bob Dylan, American musician and songwriter.
And on business news tonight, the Ministry of Finance and Planning has announced that the special import tax on potatoes, big onions and red onions will be reduced with effect from tomorrow.
The communique issued by the Ministry of Finance and Planning reads that the import tax of 40 rupees imposed on a kilogram of potatoes will be reduced by 30 rupees. Meanwhile, the import tax of 35 rupees on a kilogram of big onions will be reduced by 25 rupees and the 15 rupees import tax on a kilogram of red onions will be reduced by 10 rupees. According to the communique, the President had instructed the Treasury to implement the price reduction as the crops of locally harvested potatoes, big onions and red onions have arrived to the local markets and to provide these items for a reasonable rate for the consumer ahead of the festive season. The Ministry of Finance and Planning says that seeds and fertilizers will be provided by the government as a policy to encourage domestic agricultural products. The communique reads that the import tax will be maintained to provide the highest prices for the local producer during the harvesting season.
Well, now the agrarian community requests the government to include measures in the budget that will control price increase of agrarian equipment.
Now, despite fertilizer being provided at a concessionary rate, the agrarian community points out that the price of agricultural equipment has increased rapidly.
The government had taken measures to provide fertilizer to farmers for a concessionary rate of 350 rupees for a period of 8 years. However, the farmers lament that despite the fertilizer being given at a concessionary rate, the rate to prepare land, equipment charges as well as the prices of pesticides have seen a rapid increase. We request that fertilizer be given at the concessionary rate of 350 rupees. Today they charge us 500 rupees for this. The fuel prices and the rent for tractors have increased. We ask the government to reduce these charges in the budget. The farmers also face the long-standing problem of the inability to obtain seeds with proper standards. The seeds are not of proper standard. We face a threat of elephants. It is difficult to engage in farming. All the farmers who are eligible of receiving the farmers' pension has not been granted a cent since 2012. We request that farmers' pension be granted via this budget with the arrears. We have made a written request in this regard.
Welcome back. Now on to more local news. The leader of the Janaseta Peramuna, Venerable Batharmule Seelarathana Thera, says that certain Sri Lankan diplomats serving abroad do not render a proper service.
Well, yes, the Venerable Thera made this comment upon his return to the island last night, subsequent to his visit to Geneva, Switzerland.
Some of the ambassadors appointed by the Ministry of External Affairs do not render a service to the country. They are wasting the wealth of the country. These individuals who are living off the money of the poor people of the country should know to serve their country. Not a single ambassador appointed is rendering a proper service to the country. They are wasting the money from the treasury in an unwanted manner. I request the government to hold an impartial inquiry in the future into what happens to the money spent on these ambassadors.
A public rally of the Democratic Party was held at the Kochikade Urban Council grounds in Negombo yesterday.
When we make our way into the Katunayake Expressway, we can see that certain sections on either side of the road are covered with metal sheets. My friends, behind this curtain of metal are shanties. The government does not want to show the foreigners who arrive in the country the way you live. Before the war was brought to an end in Nandikadal in 2009, what did the government say? They told to be patient and that they will help. They said that they are fighting to save the nation. They said after the war, you all will be taken to heaven. Listen to your conscience and ask yourselves, how many sacrifices did you make? You cannot go on a road, no proper food. Your children did not receive a proper education. Why? Because the government was helped to end the conflict. However, remember, if this commander did not have a backbone, this war would have never ended. We are making aware of this rule that is taking place in the country and rescue us from it. The culture of this country has been destroyed completely. There is a new economic tactic in play, that is gambling. Even if you call it casinos, it is gambling. In a game of cards, there are two decks. These decks are shuffled. Some places are just like that. They are attempting to legalize prostitution in the country by shuffling the decks. The just society has been destroyed. The rulers are attempting to destroy whatever is left. So-called powerful political parties rule this country. 200 or 300 so-called powerful politicians administered this country. But they all failed. For the past 3 generations, we witnessed how this country took a step back. This country always took a step back when compared to the other countries in the world. One main reason for this is the corrupt personal agendas of the politicians in this country. Politicians in this country always engage in politics for their personal gain and not for the betterment of the people or the nation. The people in this country have no right to speak, no human rights, no media freedom. When you bring this all together, the people have lost democracy as a whole.
Staying on the subject of politics, UNP MP Sajid Premadasa made the following remarks in Horana today.
Can we win elections by bringing the Channel 4 journalists to the UNP headquarters? I see this as a government conspiracy to inflict defeat on the UNP rather than a program to steer the UNP to victory. However, the party needs 4 channels. It needs the 4 channels against corruption, against injustice, against oppression and against hunger. Who do we need to implement these 4 channels? We need to bring together the Apuhamis, Bandaramanikes, Yogeshwarans and Mohammeds from Dondrahead to Point Pedro to implement these 4 channels.
Sri Lanka defeated the touring Kiwis by 36 runs in the third one-day international according to the Duckworth-Lewis method. In a match limited to 33 overs a side, due to the rain interruption, the home side posted 211 runs on the board for the loss of 8 wickets in their 33 overs.
Now opener Tilakaratne Dilshan top scored for Sri Lanka with 53 runs, while Mahela Jayawardene contributed with 46. New Zealand were handed a revised target of 216 to be reached in 33 overs. However, the match was stopped due to bad light when the Kiwis were on 126 for the loss of 6 wickets after 25 overs. Sri Lanka were handed a 36-run win over the Kiwis according to the Duckworth-Lewis method.
That's up in the air and a man under it.
A run. And that's a wrap of primetime news from the News First team. It's a pleasure having you with us. I'm Minoshi Ratnasekara.
And I'm Nadim Majid. We leave you tonight with a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. Take care and good night.